how is the message being received in your mind, or what you know, on the smaller municipalities, the smaller agencies, the place that has 200 police officers and a small SWAT contingency? Is what are they doing in preparation for all of this?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've met a lot of law enforcement organizations since January. Very large ones and very small ones. And it's more been based on if they have like some go-getters in the department that like press their leadership and like, this is important. We got to get briefed on this. There's a lot of SWAT teams who don't have the funding to do it, but they're changing their tactics. Obviously, I'm not going to explain how, so terrorists don't know. But anyway, so it's really a lot of go-getters. Unfortunately, we started off, as you can imagine, a lot of people in law enforcement being like, well, is it going to happen in my town? What I like to say is, well, what percentage of your town is veterans, right? Like, that's where you start. Also, if it's going to go on for multiple days, potentially, well, are you going to get called to back up? How far away are these cities from you? Now, we don't know a lot of the cities. We know some of the states ISIS is focused on. And then the AQAP video has a few cities, but that doesn't mean that's where they'll be. But right. There's a lot of focus on Pennsylvania in this threat. A lot. If you are in any city in Pennsylvania, you should be preparing, in my opinion, right? So there are certain states that have been very forward-leaning. Florida's been very forward-leaning. Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, Tennessee. We've been up to New York multiple times. So luckily, there are pockets. The problem is, until Mr. Kent put out this memo this week, a lot of them didn't have anything to stand on when they went to try to sell, hey, we need to move funds to do this kind of training. So a lot of them were doing like, we need to do different kinds of active shooter training. And this is really smart. So what they did, and I think people should do this if you don't get support, you say, we need to do an active shooter drill, but we need to do an active shooter drill with 3 shooters hitting 2 locations, right? Yeah. Very simple change. But it does help with this threat, and you don't have to say it's counterterrorism related. Unfortunately, right, you got to play other ruses to sometimes get money or the funding or the support. But we've seen a lot of people do really creative things.
That's fascinating to me, because that's the one plot that I think is the one that resonates with me. It's the one I'll never forget when Mumbai took place. Not that, I'm praising the attack, but the tactics in that were the best I had ever seen, right? They were just 10 guys wreaking havoc, holding the city hostage for 58 hours or whatever it was. And if imagine that with, in a smaller city of 250,000, 300,000 people, a smaller police force, not a lot of big government entities that can respond. It's like, that's the thing that is really the most alarming, in particular if people, like you're saying, had a year and a half of training and preparation and, access to the other things. Because a lot of things, I think people are like, well, where are they going to get their guns? How are they going to get their tactical equipment? Yeah, right. It's like, how are they going to get their tactical equipment? Where are they training? And it's like, it's just not realistic. And that's what I hear a lot of people and read a lot of people as I, comb through your trolls when you make your posts and, and want to go after them. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. But, that's what I think people are kind of, what I'm concerned of. And so how do people in their local communities, civilians, what can they do to kind of be heads up, head on a swivel, increase their SA? And then if one of those incidents does take place and they're engaged and around it, how do you, I mean, obviously I think all the veterans that they're going to be going, most veterans that I know, at least my friends, all carry, now I know a lot of dudes that are actually carrying backpacks with, suppressed automatic or semi-automatic, long guns in there. What is the deconfliction and what is the reaction that people can have in those situations? Yeah,
I mean, your hope is to not be on the X or in the location where it happens. What I like to try to tell people is your focus is on your family emergency plan and being home and protecting your family, or at least protecting your neighborhood, right? Have a neighborhood group watch, block off the neighborhood if something is happening. And then your police handle the city and the roads, your sheriff handle, the main highways, etc. Now, as you said, we're going to have a lot of people rolling on this attack if it happens. We're just going to, because we've had warfighters training for 20 years. So what we've been at least trying to do in Florida, and we're pushing in other states, is have those meetings and conversations now, especially with the veteran organizations in your town. Know who they are, because we have a problem where the terrorists might dress as law enforcement. So now when you see this veteran you've never met, well-trained, well-armed, he looks like law enforcement. Is he an attacker? Is he not? There's going to be a lot of confusion in this. So we're telling everyone, make all the relationships you can now, right? Bring community into it now, because you're in a better spot. Also, as you can imagine, let's say they hit the hospital, right? And then they do a second round. Well, now you can't use the hospital. Well, did you have conversation with the local schools, the local churches? Did you stockpile medical supplies elsewhere? Do you even have the blood levels where they need to be at the blood banks in your town? There are very, very simple things that will help in any emergency that people are not doing. And we need to get citizens involved, right? I get my house in order. I get my kids' school in order, I get my church in order, and then I work with the mayor, the police chief, or whoever to get the community in order. And I think that's the best way we at least handle how we protect and defend ourselves. Now, when something like this happens, the scale it's going to happen at, it's going to be like 9/11. You didn't know what 9/11 was, but you went the hell home. And that's what you need to really focus on. The majority of people are going to need to keep themselves and the people they love safe.
Awesome. That's fantastic. All right. Last question. Obviously, we saw the president of Syria on stage with General Petraeus recently, and the acknowledgement of this is for me in particular. I know for you, I've listened to you. I know all my friends are just in absolute, astonished disbelief that this is taking place. What, in your opinion, is the right way for the government to begin to acknowledge this is real, and then to really what would you like to see with them working with in and around the IC community, but all the other government agents, Homeland Bureau, all that? What would you like to start to see take place?
Yeah, I mean, our government first has to be honest, right? Al-Qaeda is going to do this massive attack. Then they have to cut off the pieces of the misinformation. That's obviously the information coming from the Taliban and the information coming from the new Syrian government. This is now tainted intelligence, and we need to handle it as such. Even if you take it from them, fine, but it needs to be marked. So if I'm an analyst in DIA and I read the CIA report, it says on it the CIA got it from the Taliban, because that is not happening, right? Then, so you have to do that. You also have to have the real discussion. The terrorists know we collect plenty of things over the phones. Most of them got captured on their phones. So they actually sit and do planning and strategy meetings for what they're going to say on the phone so NSA can collect it. So we have to stop saying NSA information is corroboration, right? Because that is also tainted. We have to be very honest. It's hard for people in the intelligence community to admit, I've been fooled by terrorists, but we have been. Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri fooled us with the coast bombing. He fooled us with Hamza and Saad bin Laden. Like, there are real factual things where the intelligence community failed. Now, this is just another one. So we first got to be honest about that. I do think with a Tulsi and Joe at the helm, I do think they don't have the hubris, and I think they'll care more to protect Americans. And now they got to get everybody else on board. So that's one thing. The other part is the only way to thwart a terrorist attack is you got to be proactive against it, which we haven't been. One way to be proactive against it is you got to go after the masterminds. I know no one's going to put Giuliani in the X right now, so unfortunately, I'm going to have to ignore probably the Syria piece of it, which I don't think we should be doing. But we should be going after Saif al-Adil. There's no argument. Saif al-Adil is one of the most wanted terrorists in the world, and CENTCOM is actually ignoring information being provided to them on his location. They are not actively targeting him, which is crazy. Wow. So he's the mastermind of this plot. Obviously, they have to be honest about the bin Laden sons, start collecting on them. Think about it. They have not collected against Saad bin Laden since 2009. That is an intelligence failure like you could never believe. So there has to be a lot of honesty. You got to say, hey, we messed this up. Let's get it straightened out. And CENTCOM, has not been honest about the ISIS fight. I don't know if we need the Secretary of War to say, hey, I'm going to do some sort of counterintelligence review, just like the CIA chief needs to do a counterintelligence review of the Afghanistan department. But something is wrong. Now, is it just bad reporting? Is it these relationships with the terrorists, et cetera? I don't know what it is, but we have to find the root causes of some of these problems. Lastly, we brought in all these terrorists. We got to move them out faster. We have to prioritize at least their nationalities, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying block everybody from those countries, but we know there's certain passports that are compromised. Afghanistan, Syria, Turkey, Libya. I'm sorry, every single person with one of those passports better be in rooms all week long being questioned, because I don't even know if these people on Afghan passports are Afghan. Well, I want an Afghan sitting in front of them talking to them. Let's do some enhanced vetting.